instantly become a better rider by treating your ride the same way a pilot treats their flight. And in today's video, I'm going to give you the 6 steps to think how a pilot would, adapted for motorcycling. So if you're new to this channel, you might be wondering, who am I and why am I sitting here in a pilot's uniform? So my name is Tiz and I'm a qualified flight instructor. I teach people how to fly, getting people their private pilot and commercial pilot's license. I've been riding myself for 9 years, trekking, touring, commuting, you name it, I've done it. I love motorcycling and I want to bring to the motorcycling community my mindset and perspective from aviation, how that can make people ultimately a better rider. So now let's get into those 6 steps that you can use in your motorcycling to think how a pilot would. And these steps I personally use and I've formatted in a way to hopefully make it understandable to you and something that you can take away straight away from this video and adapt for your own rides as well. Now, the first thing I personally do before going out to fly is always checking the weather. You're going to find that all pilots check the weather before they fly, or at least they should very well check the weather before they go out. It's not just good enough to check outside, look out the window and see what's happening. You have to go into the whole route that you plan to do. So same for your ride, you need to make sure checking the conditions of your departure location and also where you're actually going to arrive as well, because as we all know, weather can change drastically from one location to another. Now when you're checking the weather, you're checking for things such as how hot is it going to be, so temperature is a big factor, how cold it's going to be, if there's wind, if there's rain, if it's really hot summer sunny conditions, and also if it's going to be frosty icy conditions as well, because that's going to all play a part in how you're going to approach this ride and whether you actually go or you don't go. Now, depending on the length of your ride, if it's just going 5 minutes down the road, pretty much you can look out the window. You've got to be practical here. You look out the window, see what it's like, and you're probably going to get a good gauge on what you're going to need in terms of that ride specifically. But if you're going a longer distance, if you're touring, commuting to work a decent distance as well, you do want to pay attention to what is happening for the overall bigger picture in terms of weather. Step number 2 is to check the route. So what kind of route are you planning for this ride specifically? Is it going to be going on the back roads, so your B roads, any main state highways, so your main roads? Do you want to have a more scenic ride, or are you just happy once again flying along on the highway just to get to your destination? So what is the purpose of your ride? And that's going to dictate the route that you're going to take as well. Now with the route, you have to consider, is it an open road? Or is it, once again, B roads where you got lots of nice backcountry roads, windy corners, where you're going to have to really think about the conditions, as we talked about earlier with the weather, and how that's going to affect that route specifically. For example, if you have maybe a colder, potentially icier day, you can go on a B road. Maybe you've selected that for your trip and your ride on this particular occasion. On that route, are there going to be some areas, and this is very specific for New Zealand as well, where you get a lot of high terrain on each side and the sun can't actually hit certain areas on the road. Plenty of corners, they're hidden in dark shaded spots, which therefore is going to leave potentially some ice on the road, especially in winter conditions. So you do have to consider that in your route as well. Now, if you're going on a main highway, typically that's all good. You can ride on those. If there's going to be any snow, kind of ice, that's going to be cleared off as well. To do it for the weather, heat conditions, how much is it going to sap your energy going on B roads, focusing on tight corners potentially, if that's the road you're going on, compared to maybe going on a highway where it's a lot straighter and you can kind of just sit and relax a little bit more. You do have to concentrate, as with all your riding, but the amount of concentration wouldn't be to the extent as if you're hitting corners on a B road. While riding, and for your routes that you're selecting, you also want to consider the stops that you want to do. You want to be adaptable in everything. So if you've planned stops that you want to go along the trip, maybe it's your favorite cafe or favorite diner where you want to stop off and eat, then that's totally fine. But just remember, things can change. So be adaptable and be ready to change those stops or adapt those stops. For example, if you go somewhere, it's not open, it's closed, where can you go next that you can actually stop off? Because it's important to sit down, have a break, refuel, talk with friends if you're going on a group ride as well. It's all part of that social aspect and keeping your mind active and fueled for your ride. Now, when we're flying, specifically our route is selected dependent on what we are trying to achieve with the student, or if we're actually trying to do a cross-country flight, we want to get there as direct as possible. However, if there's certain weather systems along the route and it's not ideal, we do have to change where we're going to go, and you want to apply that to your ride as well. So maybe you have selected a specific route you want to do and it's more scenic, but the weather's not looking good. You might have, once again, some of those icier corners and roads which are hidden in the shade. That will also dictate on the actual route that you go. Now, based on the information you've gathered so far with step 1 and step 2, so that's your weather check and then also your route, what you're going to do regarding your route, you then want to base a go or no-go decision on that. So in flying, we have, once we've checked kind of the weather, making sure it's legal, it's within our limitations as well, is deciding, do we actually want to go or can we actually go? So same with your riding. After you've assessed all that information, you actually want to ask yourself, okay, is it safe to go on that day? Are you going to get out of your ride what you want to get out of your ride? And if so, cool. It's going to be a go decision. It can also still be a go decision even if things aren't perfect how you want. You might just have to make some changes and adapt to certain things as we talked about previously. However, if conditions are really bad, you've got maybe extremely windy and rainy day and it's going to be a little bit miserable, that's obviously going to be up to you. But in most cases, it's like a no-go decision. Save that for a better day where you can actually enjoy the ride a little bit more. As you may know, everything in aviation is safety orientated and to reduce risk as much as possible. So we really don't push it in aviation. If we're not going to fly, we're not going to fly. We're not going to push for the sake of it, regardless of what pressures we have on us. It could be commercial pressures if you've got passengers, or it could be pressure for my instance of with a student, and maybe the weather's been bad, which it has been recently. It hasn't been ideal. Had to cancel a lot of student flights. In that case, I personally do feel pressure to get them up because we're cancelling their bookings and now they haven't flown in a while. But even with me feeling pressure, I'm not going to succumb to that and just go for the sake of going. We still have safety as our number one priority. And with your riding, you want that to be number one as well. You can always ride another day, but if you go out in conditions that really aren't suitable for you, there is that risk of something happening. So make sure you take it smart, you think about what's going on prior to your ride, and then make that decision. Step number 4 is going to be about a pre-ride motorcycle check. Before every flight, as a pilot, we always pre-flight our aircraft, and that's checking through everything on the aircraft to make sure it's safe and up to standard to fly for that day. So you want to adapt that now towards your riding as well. So if you don't actually check your motorcycle properly before you go, especially on a bigger ride, now's the time to start getting into that good habit of doing. Now, in the aviation world, as pilots, we love flow and efficiency, and we apply that to our pre-flight. Now, you should do this the same to your pre-ride check as well, because it helps build up a nice routine for yourself, making sure that you are thorough with your check and you're not sacrificing checking anything just for speed. However, doing things in a flow will help aid in terms of getting this check done and not spending all day doing it, especially if you are time restricted and you need to get somewhere. So I've got a little list here on how I personally do mine and what I check for in my pre-ride check before I ride. So number 1, the first thing I check on my motorcycle are the lights, making sure the high beam, low beams are working, and all my indicators. Now this also includes the brake light as well. So squeeze that front brake lever, make sure the brake light comes on at the rear, and same with your rear brake pedal, squeeze that and make sure the light also comes on the rear tail light as well for your brakes. It's really, really important that is working because you need to notify people behind you whenever you're going to brake. Now the next thing I have here are brake pads. So I go around the bike, check the front. If you've got 1 or 2 discs or 2 calipers, make sure you check both brake pads. If you've got 1, just check. Just remember in your caliper, you've got 2 brake pads per caliper, but check each caliper, make sure the brake pads are good. Now with this as well, also I'm going through my tyre pressure, checking the tyre pressure, checking the tyre tread, and the actual condition of the tyre itself. So making sure it's not cracking or dry rotting, because that's not a good sign. Could potentially be a little bit older, which means you need to replace your tires. Also, important thing to check, which doesn't always come to everyone's mind, is about checking those fork seals. So you want to make sure that they're not cracking and splitting, and you're not seeing any kind of clear oil down your fork. So make sure you do keep an eye on those when you're checking around the front of your motorcycle, around those forks. Now, another common one, which you may already do yourself, is the chain. So you want to check the condition of your chain. If it's rusted, you're probably not lubing it as you should. So make sure that your chain is lubricated. Make sure you're using the correct chain slack. If you don't know your chain slack, you can find that in your manual for your motorcycle. Generally, that will give your slack that is required. And also with that, you want to be making sure your rear sprocket and your front sprocket, if you can see it easy enough, that the teeth are in good condition and that they haven't gone, shark toothed or anything like that. So critical items, just make sure you check that every ride. It's very easy to lube a chain, so if you haven't done that, just make sure you have got that lubricated, and that will help extend the life of it. Also, with your pre-ride, check the whole general condition of your bike while you move from one spot to the other. I typically like to start at the front of my bike and then work my way around in a circular pattern. You can either do this clockwise or anti-clockwise, but I'm checking for these things while moving around the bike. Now, with the general condition, check the fairings, make sure there's no splits, cracks forming, anything like that. Make sure all your screws and bolts are all in, and just note that anything, if you note anything funny and that shouldn't be there or shouldn't look how it should, then you've noted that, and that you either get it replaced if you need to, or keep it in the back of your mind for something that you can fix later on. Wear all your gear all the time. No matter what you're doing, how short your ride is, where you're going, just wear your gear, because it can save you. If you've just watched a very recent video of mine, I came off my motorcycle 200 meters from my house, and my gear saved me. So I always wear my gear no matter what. You're going to help save yourself in the event that something happens if you've got your gear on. Now, with your gear as well, you might have multiple pieces of gear. For example, you might have winter gear and then kind of summer gear, a little bit of lighter gear that you can wear in hotter weather, and your winter gear will typically be a little bit more bulkier, could be heated as well. Now, when you do your weather check, along with that, your temperature check and the route that you're going, you're going to then decide, okay, what kind of gear do you want to ride today? So now that we're winter time in New Zealand, I'm personally wearing my heated gloves wherever I go. Downside to that is that they are bulkier, so I don't have as much feel through the bars and the levers. But in saying that, my fingers don't now freeze off. So that actually saves me altogether from, for example, if I use my summer gloves, I'd actually get numb hands. So I wouldn't be able to feel anything regardless. So these heated gloves are right for the conditions that I'm currently riding in here for New Zealand. Also with your gear and the previous checks that you've determined is going to be how many layers you want to actually wear too. So it's no fun going on a ride where you're absolutely freezing your butt off because you haven't got enough layers underneath your main jacket, so to say, or your pants, or it's a really stinking hot day and you've got too many layers on, and that's also going to be pretty detrimental to your ride and your concentration. With your gear too, it's not only for safety and protection and to do with the temperatures that you're riding in, but you need to consider keeping yourself dry. So if it is wet weather that you're going to ride in, wear that wet weather gear, because as soon as that gear gets soaked, it's absolutely no fun and you do get cold. When something's wet and you've got that wind blast and wind chill going on, it makes things feel a million degrees colder than what it actually can be on that day. And ultimately you just want to be comfortable with your ride, and being wet, you're not going to be comfortable. Keep yourself dry and you'll thank yourself when you get to your destination. Whip off that wet weather gear, hang it out somewhere to dry, and you're going to be nice and toasty because you haven't got wet. Now, finally, the sixth step is to enjoy the ride. You've now done all the work. If you've followed through all these steps so far, rest assured knowing that you've done the work required in order to go on this ride, to be prepared and tackle whatever you need to tackle. You need to also be adaptable as well. So you may have prepared as much as you can in advance, but remember, things don't always go the way that you plan. So if you are adaptable or you expect to be adaptable to any changes that occur. That's also going to relieve any kind of anxiety or stress or panic that can arise from things changing. And what I personally find when flying is every time I go out to fly a plane, there's a goal I want to work on for myself or for the student. Same with my own personal riding, even if it's just commuting, there's always something I want to work on with each ride. And I do recommend that for you as well, whether that's going out to ride and just working on your lines or working on even just following distances from other vehicles or being smooth on the throttle. It could be anything you want to work on. Just make sure you do have a goal for each ride that you intend to go on. So if you're still with me, thanks for making it to this part of the video. Now, the 6 steps we covered. Number 1 is the weather check. And then we've gone through selecting your route based on what the weather's doing as well and what you're trying to get out of your ride. Next up, what we talked about was a go or no-go decision. So based on those factors, you're going to actually decide whether you're going to go or not go on this ride specifically. Maybe you just save it for another day. If you are going to go ahead with the ride, we then talked about pre-ride check. So make sure you do a pre-ride check everything's working and everything is safe. And then wearing your gear. So step number 5 was making sure that you wear your gear, but based on the conditions of the day, you might change some of the gear that you're wearing, but it doesn't mean don't wear your gear. And then last of all, we're talking about enjoying the ride. So that's really important. Have fun, go out there, do it, and that's the whole reason why we're in this game of motorcycling. Now, integrating these 6 steps will make you a better, safer rider on the roads, and you can just pull these straight out from this video and start them straight away, and that's going to make an instant difference to your riding. Doing these steps is also going to help bring that pilot mindset to your riding. So I've adapted these from what I know in aviation and flying aircraft, so I've adapted it for my riding, and hopefully you do get something from this that you can take away from the video. So thank you for watching and sticking by. I recommend, if you haven't seen, is my video where I crashed and talk about gear and why I don't quite understand why everyone actually doesn't wear their gear. Obviously, people have their own reasons why they don't wear gear, but from a pilot's perspective, I go into the reasons why talking about gear is so important. So make sure to check that one out, and we'll see you all on the next video.